Hello and welcome everyone. Good morning or good afternoon, depending on where you are joining us from. Thank you all for taking the time to be with us this morning. So today's webinar is on the topic of digitalization and digital services in public employment services. This event is part of a series of webinars on the topics of reforms in public employment services that is being organized jointly between the OECD, WAPES, France Travail, and European Commission DG Reform. So in today's webinar, we will be exploring how public employment services around the world are changing their way of doing business, courtesy of digitalization and digital service provision. So while this is not an entirely new phenomenon, this transformation was undoubtedly taken to entirely new heights during the COVID-19 pandemic, seeing public employment services finding new ways to do business in order to be able to ensure service continuity during this emergency period. This saw the vast majority of PES introducing or enhancing their digital service provision. This new way of interacting with PES clients through digital or blended channels has now become a permanent feature of the offering of many PES. Alongside this increased prevalence of digital services, PES are also increasingly turning to digital tools to be able to aid and complement their processes and activities. Today's webinar will feature presentations from two countries advanced on this journey, Norway and the Netherlands, who will share their experience and insights. These two presentations will then be followed by a discussion which we welcome your active participation in. So just some housekeeping. If you have access to your microphone, we would appreciate if you could remain on mute while not speaking. During the discussion later, if you don't have permission to unmute, you can raise your hand and we can then unmute you. Otherwise, we welcome you adding any questions that you might have into the chat function. So to kick off, it's my pleasure to hand the floor over to our first speaker, Sonja Skinnerland, who is the Director of Labour Market Services Department at the Norwegian Labour and Welfare Administration, or NAV. So the floor is yours, Sonja, and I'll share your slides now.
Thank you very much. It's very nice to be here and to meet all of you, and I'm grateful to be able to present the Norwegian digitalization and where we are at now, also as a consequence of the pandemic. You could go to the next slide. Yes, well, I'm happy to be able to share some insights to the recent digital developments in NAV, which is the Norwegian Labour and Welfare Administration, where I work, and I also am the leader of all the NAV offices around in Norway with their directors in every county. That means the people who are interacting with the people we are following up for work in Norway, amongst other things. NAV has a broad area of responsibility, including social services, security of income and pensions, and also public employment services, or PES. Over the last decade, the process of digitalization in NAV has accelerated rapidly. Much attention has been given to how we can provide our users with modern digital services that meet their needs and expectations. There is also the need for welfare administration to run more efficiently, reducing costs while helping people help themselves through self-service solutions and automated case management where this is possible. In parallel with digital development, there is also a need for securing good alternatives for non-digital segments of the population. That could be that they really are non-digital, or it could be that they are not really understanding the bureaucratic processes so well. So it's difficult to use the digital tools without any help. Making sure that NAV in fact is accessible to everyone, it's what's very important for us. So we, for instance, use short information videos to assist these users more efficiently. Many of the videos are translated into other languages as well. This has been highly successful. NAV has a strategic ambition to prioritize the people that need us the most. This is a strategy which is only 1.5 years old. In this lies also the principle that those who may be helped in a sufficient way through self-service solutions should be helped digitally. This means progress in digitalization helps us move more resources in favor of clients with bigger, more complex needs. An important part of this strategy is seen in, for instance, a 2-year project that we run, which is called NOE, where the object is exactly to serve all users, in this case, job seekers, who may be sufficiently helped through digital services, through a special unit that is able to serve increased amount of users. This gives room for more extensive in-person service and support for those who need it more, because here they can help a lot of people at the same time through our digital tools. This way of prioritizing, we think, is the key for the future of the welfare state. I was asked to enlighten how the pandemic helped accelerate the process of modernization and digitalization. For NAV, this experience was a very good digital experience. When Norway closed down initially, March 2020, NAV was hugely affected in at least 3 ways. Approximately 19,000 employees were sent home. All of NAV offices were closed, and there was a historically sharp rise in need for unemployment benefits in line with the rise of unemployment itself, mostly due to layoffs. Facing this situation, we were able to maintain an acceptable level of service because we already had a solid digital foundation. In 2020, NAV already had a digital system for communicating with and providing support for job seekers and other groups of users. This via a digital activity plan, where job seekers or people that were followed up for work could have a dialogue with their how do you say it, counselor, straight away without meeting face to face. And this, of course, was already there when the pandemic happened. And we also had digital options for contacting NAV through our contact center. We had a chat and a chatbot. The chatbot, Frida, the chatbot was called Frida. She proved to be of great value during the pandemic, and its users increased significantly. Over the last 4 years, Frida has received an average of approximately 800,000 inquiries annually. Frida uses natural language understanding and machine learning to be able to give our users the correct answers to their questions. Her most important task is to assist the users and make the users self-reliant. Of course, in the beginning, Frida was very, very simple. And after being used more and more, she gets smarter and smarter. And people can also say that they want to talk to a person. So if they are helped by Frida, it's good. And if they're not, they are also moved further on. We also had a modern ET department using agile methods before the pandemic. We already used Teams, and this enabled us quickly to develop new temporary digital solutions to cope with the situation. This made it possible for us to quickly deliver a series of new solutions ordered by the Parliament. I'll give you some examples afterwards. Also, we had in place a good system for digital interaction and cooperation internally, like Teams and Office 365, make it possible to shift swiftly to home office and remote work. We had daily meetings to cope with difficult situations, and really was able to do a lot of work from our own homes. Immediate measures after the shutdown. NAV experienced a significant growth in applications for unemployment benefits, 285% increase compared to 2019. There was also a strong increase in applications for sickness benefits and care benefits. NAV delivered new digital solution in response to 12 resolutions from the Parliament. And this was really, for example, the unemployment benefits was made in a very fast way, in 3-4 days, a digital solution which helped thousands of people with their unemployment benefits in very short time. And this would, before the pandemic, we would at least use maybe 1.5 years doing that. And now we were able to do it much, much quicker because we worked together internally, and we also had a very, very good cooperation with the department, which also helped us with the legislative issues. NAV also relocated and hired approximately 1,200 employees to handle the increased influx of applications and ensured the payment of benefits to residents and employers. You can take the next slide, please.
Oh, please.
Thank you. This is just to show how the unemployment, you know this from your countries, of course, during the pandemic, and it was a lot of people unemployed at the moment. You could just switch to the next slide, please. Thank you. Yeah, this is my last slide. There are extensive ongoing digital developments when it comes to providing better services for both job seekers and employers. And many new services and tools have been unveiled the last years as a consequence also of how we worked during the pandemic. I will mention a few more examples of solutions we believe will give more efficient and better support for both groups in our efforts of helping more people obtaining a job or staying in work, which is NAV's central mission. We have developed My Page for employers. This is a broad range of login services for employers. We have a dialogue solution with the employers and NAV through a system called Salesforce, which we of course have bought but also developed for our use. Recruitment solutions, helping our counselors find relevant positions for job seekers. We have inclusive working life. This is an agreement between the parties in the work sphere. And recently we have launched an early version of a new system, which we call FIA, to target and structure efforts when it comes to pursuing a more inclusive working life. Also to ensure that people getting sick stays in the working life, and that we could help the employers in this task. Last but not least, the workplace, arbetsplassen, is a combined job database, CV registration portal, and information portal with lots of useful information for both job seekers and employers, helping them to connect and find each other. And we have also developed something we call super fast application. This is a quicker and easier way to apply for a job than the traditional CV and post-it and quite long routines. But through a very simple application, reducing the entry cost of job seeking. And we didn't even tell many people about it, and it was just taken to use because a lot of people found it instinctively easy to use, and they needed it. Recently, this workplace has been upgraded with information in Ukrainian, as Norway, as many other countries, faces a huge number of recently arrived refugees who need NAV's help to enter the labor force in Norway. Yes, thank you. This was my short presentation of some of the digital tools we have developed and which we are using now to ensure that we have enough time to meet people in person who needs it, and therefore can help many people digitally at the same time. Thank you.
Thank you, Sonia. Thank you for sharing your interesting experience and insights. It's very interesting to hear the case of NAV and how the services have evolved over the recent years, including since the COVID-19 period. So thanks again for your contribution. In the interest of time, we will move directly to our second speaker, and then we will follow it up with discussion with our two speakers together. So it's my pleasure to welcome Niels, who is an international business advisor at the Dutch Public Employment Service, UWV. The floor is yours, Niels. Would you like me to share your slides?
I'll do it myself, thank you.
Okay, perfect, thank you.
Yeah. First of all, I called in sick today. I have some sort of flu. So if I disappear all of a sudden, I won't come back anymore because well, I couldn't find a replacement at such short notice, so I'm sorry about that. So in this presentation, I will tell you a little bit about our online services and the effect they have in the real world. And to be able to tell that, first we need to step back a little bit and look at the period from 2012 to 2016, where we introduced digital-only public employment services. And this was the result of a government policy in 2011, where we had to decrease the budget of the public employment service by 30% and decrease the reintegration budget by 20% for people on unemployment benefits. And the vision behind that is that citizens should be more self-reliant and have more individual responsibility.
May I
continue?
Sorry, yes, you can go ahead.
Yeah, okay. So our strategy was to grow the use of digital services for citizens to a digital-only or digital-first model, and to have in-person services only for job seekers with a large distance to the labor market, and to have less local offices and service points. So in that time period, we reduced from 105 local offices to only 35. So we introduced, after that, we introduced a concept of blended services, because we had the idea that it was also very valuable for people to have in-person services next to online services. We acquired some more budget, which also means that we have more room for in-person services. And this was all based on the philosophy of new public management, which brings a focus on economy, efficiency, and effectiveness. With that philosophy, we wanted to do also an impact measurement study. And we did that between 2017 and 2020. And later on, I will show you the results from that. So with blended services, it really depends on what your individual profile is. So I have two example cases here. In the case of Sabia, she's a highly educated young woman. She has good labor market perspective, so she registers online, and she will get an individual action plan online. If she has a question about her benefits or about the labor market, she's always happy to call us or send her us a message to get an answer from the Public Employment Service. But we believe she can be successful in finding a job again on her own. And in many cases, people with this kind of profile, they do. For that, we use the work profiler assessment system, which we presented in a previous webinar in this series. Now, if we look at another client, and in this case, his name is Mario, just like Sabia, he will register online. Around between 95 and 98% of our clients register online. However, since Mario is not as high educated as Sabia and has been working for the last 20 years in his old job, we see that his perspectives on the labor market are less positive than Sabia. So he will be called in for a meeting at our office to discuss with the counselor what his options are and what he might need to apply for a new job. So this is a picture of the counseling. And over time, this meeting will continue. Also, it's possible that Mario will be part of a workshop. It's like a peer-to-peer workshop where people can jointly apply for new jobs. Of course, we wanted to study the impact of our services, and we did that with a large randomized control group study. And we had 3 sub-studies. We wanted to learn what the effect would be on job search behavior if you have a blended services as opposed to online only. We would like to learn the hard effects on the likelihood of work and outflow from unemployment benefits after 12 months and after 30 months. So we work with randomized control groups. The first group would get the new blended service model that I just discussed with you. Another group would get online services only, and there would be extra attention to enforcement on their obligations for job seeking. And there would be a control group who would get online services only. So what we find is that the conversations with the counselor have a clear positive effect on outflow, and that there's a correlation between the services and job seeking skills, job seeking behavior, and the motivation to find work. So after 12 months, the net effect is 1.8% point. So after 12 months, 56.9% of the control group found work, as opposed to 58.6% with the new service model. We also found that if you do extra attention on enforcement, it has no effect on outflow, and it has a negative effect on client satisfaction. And we find that the return on investment of our services is positive. It's 115 million euros after 30 months. And this adds the money that we not spend on unemployment benefits. It includes the money that the tax office will receive because people resumed working, and we subtracted our own operational costs from that. There were also some other results. We found that there's no quick fix for job seekers with a high risk of becoming long-term unemployed. They need more comprehensive services. Even in this service model, they would get usually 2 to 4 meetings in a year, and possibly there would be a workshop on job finding skills for them, which is still, if you compare it to other countries, quite a minimalistic service package for job seekers. We also found that in-person services do lead to finding a job quicker, but not to better quality of jobs found. And we find that the value of in-person meetings is greater than the effect on outflow. And it gives a human face to our organization and provides people with an opportunity to discuss feelings that they come with being unemployed. And it provides the Public Employment Service also with an opportunity to detect whether there are multiple problems that prevent people from finding employment, and without knowing, you can't act on that. So that was my presentation. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Niels. Thank you so much for the very interesting presentation, and particularly under the circumstances of you not being well, it's greatly appreciated, and we really appreciate you taking the time. It's really interesting to hear the case of the Netherlands, and in particular how they are building evidence into the decision making around service provision and the decision making regarding what service channels to use. So we hope you'll be able to join us for at least part of the discussion.
I'll try.
Perfect, thank you. We're now moving on to the discussion portion of today's event, and to do this I will be handing over to my colleague Anne, who will be moderating this section.
Thank you, and thank you also from me, Niels and Sonja. Very interesting experience you shared with us, and you highlighted indeed different benefits of digital services, blended services, face-to-face services. And in this vibe, let's launch a little poll first. I need help from Sophie and Ulf for that. Can you please launch the Slido? And really, we ask also you, all the participants, what do you think are the benefits of digital services, digital service channels? So what are the main benefits in your experience, or what are the main benefits looking into the future? We have listed here 5 potential benefits. So we encourage you to choose 2, 3. Maybe if you think all of them are very, very important, then all of them. If you think none of them, feel free not to choose anything and write in chat why you don't believe in digitalization. And I hope the poll comes up.
Can you see the screen?
No, not yet. Not yet. Only the Slido screen. And
okay, I launch it.
Thank you. Here we go. So what are the main benefits in your mind? So more convenient services. So just at the job seekers or employers' convenience to interact with the public employment service, or is it that there are actually additional options, additional features, additional services, whether it's just for better management of resources? There is for some reason one is double. There's some coding error, and one is missing here. So maybe you just choose the first one, and then better monitoring and data by default. So unfortunately, there has been some coding error. Actually, the 4th one was supposed to be easier to scale up and down services to match the labor market needs, but now we don't have it. So you have to choose between 4. So basically, the resources and are of course related to scaling up and down. That's why maybe there was some issue.
Is it okay? Can I show the results?
Let's see what is in there. So better allocation is still the priority. Client convenience is second. Additional services a bit later on. Then is another better allocation which adds to the first one, but maybe some people also interpreted it as that would have been. This is the scaling of services up and down. and better monitoring and data by default is still lagging behind. So it would be interesting to see if we do this webinar in, let's say, 10 years, what is the result then? Whether it's actually then that the data facilities are much better and actually monitoring and evaluation would be in the top 2, for example, and yeah, the allocation would be only secondary. But now, of course, it's evident that there's a lot of focus on efficiency from the governments facing crisis after crisis, and having to cope with that in the public employment services. But maybe we leave the poll now aside, and I encourage you to write the questions in the chat to our presenters. I'm not sure if Niels is still there. Maybe he had to already leave. I know he's still there, so maybe even he's answering the questions. Or you raise hand. Then you can use the microphone to pose a question. And I see there is already one question in the chat, and this concerns the biggest challenge for the future regarding digitalization. But I would pose this question actually to both of you, if Niels, you are still fit. But please let us know. We really understand that it might not be very comfortable, but if possible, maybe both of you say some words about the challenges you see for the future, or the way forward for the future, or how do you see digitalization going on in the public employment services?
Yeah, this is also the question is because you are quite digitalized. You use at the moment all the advanced technologies. So, but in real life, we also have some real challenges in advance. So, okay, everything is good, but what do you see your biggest focus will be in the future? Yeah, thanks.
And
yes, you have already hand up, so please go.
Okay, thank you. Thank you. It was a very interesting question, and it was very good to listen to Niels as well. I would just like to add that we also had a kind of a test first to see how we helped people that were standard job seekers that could help themselves, and they said they could help themselves. Did we add any value if we met them, or if they just had digital help? So that's why we chose this project that I told you about. So that is the people who are online only services, and we have blended services for everybody else. But I think it's very important that the people that we have follow-up for, that we are close to, these are people that also need in-person services more and more. We see that it's quite complex. They need maybe housing, they need several different services. So I think that we need to have a lot digitalized. I also think that this is important also for our employees, because we need to use AI and a lot of support for the counselors when it comes to where can they find jobs, what kind of jobs and qualifications would be good for this person in this situation, so that they have alternatives. Not that it is chosen by AI, but that they have support in their work, because it's quite complicated and they need to know a lot of things about the school systems, about the different degrees. So they need more support to be able to help the people easier. So I think it's very, very important that we work with digitalization even more, so that we could free more resources to help the ones that needs us in person, and maybe people with blended services, they need something for the digitalization, but something also relations and just support, human support. One problem I see for us now is, of course, everything around GDPR and how do we keep all this information in a good ethical and legislative way. That is very important, that we do this right, and we learn again and again that, okay, you think that you have done everything right and it's so easy to do wrong. So this is a challenge that we are working very, very, very much to be better and better. And I think this is very important. I also think that in the digitalization we are working with, we have to see more the structures so that not every little point has to find every answer themselves. We need to work more like the structure needs to be even better, I think. Yeah, thank you.
Thank you. Niels, would you like to take this question as well?
Yeah, so if I remember correctly, the question was, what are huge challenges in digitalization, correct? Yeah, so what we see in many PES, including ourselves, is that often the decision to digitalize services comes from a monetary incentive, and not because we feel that the digital services are the best we can offer. I believe this is based on experience and not on science, to be frank, because we believe that we can do a lot more online. However, also in our organization, there's a default. Whenever there's a new challenge, we first look on what kind of in-person services would be needed, and then we think, oh, maybe we can also solve this in a digital way. It says something maybe about the workforce we employ. If you look at digital services, if they are transactional or on general information, usually in the Netherlands it's seen that it should be online because it's much easier for our clients to use it online. If this service is interactional, the more interaction you need, the more likely it is that you will need a person to provide the service. There's only so much you can do in interaction with online services, but still you can do a lot. We do recognize also the challenge of GDPR, but that is mostly on sharing our services or sharing our data with other institutions that we cooperate with. Within our organization, everything is quite okay, and we can do most things we need to do. But if we need to hand over a client to the municipality or get information from another institution, for instance, who deals with debt, then it's very difficult to share that data. However, we know it's crucial for the good integration of people that we do it. Otherwise, our clients will need to tell the same story over and over and over and over, and it's not beneficial. And then finally, another challenge is replacing legacy software that we acquired in the 80s. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you very much.
We have just a few minutes still for discussion, and I see there are some questions in the chat and also a hand raised. Maybe trying to accommodate everything. Sonja, just very quick questions to you, just to confirm the technology for your Frida chatbot. We heard that it's machine learning, so basically it is AI tool, right? And then the other one regarding employers' services in case the employers are not comfortable with digitalization, what do you do then?
Yes, I could just say that we have telephone numbers for our market counselors, so they could call also by phone. So they don't need to use if they are not digital. So we also help them by phone. And with Frida, yes, it's Yes, I'm not quite sure what they meant by the Frida, what they wanted to know.
I think it's just a confirmation of the technology.
Yes,
so
yes,
it's machine learning and AI. Thank you. And there is one hand raised, if I see correctly, it's Lixin. Can you unmute yourself and ask your question?
Yeah, thank you. Thank you for the kind of presentation. Really very interesting. I'm coming from Australia. I think probably kind of two questions. One is about how you make the assessment to kind of decide who is suitable for online services, who is suitable for blended services, and how do kind of you have some kind of time limit in terms of doing online only, and kind of obviously over time people job seekers still haven't found job, probably indication of kind of need for more personalized services. Kind of at what point you kind of you decide that that's enough for the person to be online.
If I can start, I could just say that with the online services only, that is just for a group of people which we call standard job seekers. They are 30 plus years, from 30 to 60 years, and they have just been in a job and they have themselves said that they don't need any follow-up. So that's they have online services only, but they can at any time say that they need more help, or if they're without a job more than 6 months, they will be put back to the NAV office and will have in-service, in-person services. So everybody else has blended services. It's only these standard job seekers that have only online services until they're too long without getting a job, or they themselves ask for more help. Thank you.
Well, we have a quite sophisticated way of profiling job seekers, and we make a prediction on whether they will become long-term unemployed or not. And all people who have a risk of becoming long-term unemployed will be called in the office immediately. And other people, they can first try themselves, and eventually up to the counselor, it's they can call them in for a meeting as well. Thank you.
Thank you both so much, and thank you, all the participants. It was very interesting to discuss this topic, going into the benefits and challenges and setups of blended services and digital services, and already thinking a bit about the future. So hopefully we can do this again and see where we are then. And best wishes for Niels. We hope you recover fast. And I give the floor back to Alva for some concluding remarks.
Yes, thanks, Anne. Before we wrap up, I'd like to thank our two speakers, Sonja and Niels. Thanks again for being with us today and for sharing your valuable insights and experiences from Norway and the Netherlands. More widely, thank you to all of our attendees for joining us today and for participating actively in the discussion. Looking forward, the topic of PES digitalization is undoubtedly one that we will be continuing to hear and speak about as PES around the world go further down this path, including as more and more PES adopt latest technologies, including AI. As I said at the top of this meeting, this event is part of a series of webinars that we are organizing jointly between ourselves at the OECD, WAPES, France Travail, and DG Reform. So there's 3 further events that will take place as part of this series, with the next one focusing on the topic of internal processes within PES and the role of impact evaluations, and this will take place on April 30th. So for those interested in this or the further events, please keep an eye out for information regarding these events. Thanks again for your participation and for joining us, and we wish you all a good rest of your day. Thank you.